Hello and welcome to the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. I'm Dave Kaiser. I'll be your moderator today. Thank you for joining us this opportunity to learn more about the candidates that will represent Robbinsdale and the areas surrounding Robbinsdale as well. The structure of our forum today, we will have opening statements first from our legislative candidates who you see in front of me. I will introduce them in just a second, and then we'll take a quick break and have our Robbinsdale city candidates come up at a later portion in today's forum. The first races we'll be discussing will be the Senate District 45 race and also the House District 45B race. And unfortunately, one of the candidates was supposed to be here today but not able to join us, but we will continue moving ahead with the forum with the three candidates we have. The candidates for Senate District 45 are Ann Rest and Roxana Bruns, and the candidate for House District 45B with us today is Mike Freiberg. The candidate not able to be with us is Alma Wetzker. We'll begin with a 2-minute opening statement, and to start, we'll have Ann Rest, again a candidate for Senate District 45. Ann?
Thank you very much. Well, I am State Senator Ann Rest. I was elected to the Minnesota House in 1984 and have served in the Senate since 2001. I serve on the Tax Committee, Jobs, Economic Development, and Transportations Committees. I sit on the Legislative Audit Commission, the Great Lakes Commission, and the Capital Preservation Commission. I will welcome your support and ask for your vote on November 8th. I'm a retired tax accountant and a former English teacher in the Robbinsdale school system. Our community has been my home since 1970. I serve my church and its ministry programs, including the Boy Scouts. I'm a volunteer for Days for Girls. My family has hosted AFS and Rotary exchange students over the years. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, the Rotary Club, and the Twin West Chamber of Commerce. I'm pleased to have the endorsement of the Chamber as well as a number of labor unions and environmental groups. My work in the legislature has included tax reform, increased funding for public schools, restrictions on youth access to tobacco, and consumer protection legislation. I relish my work as chair of the nonpartisan Great Lakes Legislative Caucus and our work and efforts to protect and preserve the Great Lakes, especially Lake Superior, the Big Lake. I'm proud of the unified effort of our communities, including those in Robbinsdale, to defeat the Rail Connector project in 2015 that would have brought increased oil train traffic through our neighborhoods. In the next legislative session, I'll work to deal with the state budget in a fiscally responsible manner. I know that our best state investment is quality public schooling. In addition, all families need clean air and water, safe and secure neighborhoods, good transit and transportation systems, a government that is accessible and responsive, a government that makes wise investments for the public good. I look forward to the forum this afternoon and thank the Robbinsdale Chamber for sponsoring it.
Thank you, Ann. Our next candidate for Senate District 45, a 2-minute opening statement, is Roxana Bruins. Roxana?
Hello. Thank you for coming. I am running for Senate because it's time for a change. It may sound cliche, and you all may be saying, how can you possibly do that? What I bring is a vast amount of experience living in the community that Ms. Rest has been creating policy for. I grew up in Golden Valley. This district is hugely important to me. All of our family, we have 6 kids. We are dedicated in service to others. It's something that I grew up with, and it's something that we're instilling in our own children. Faith, family, and our future. And under those 3 headings, there are numerous layers beneath them. I'm strongly in favor of every constituent and resident in this district to go visit their schools. I don't know how many here are teachers. I've worked in the schools as an education assistant, and it wasn't the most pleasant environment. And so I propose that we try to improve our school environments so that our teachers can teach. They dedicate their lives to teaching our young children, and we entrust that they can do that and keep Minnesota strong with their education. My professional career is in mental health and counseling. I have, since 1997, worked with youth and families, from individual treatment to family treatment to correctional facilities. I have seen numerous impacts on families and how the family is declining. I believe strongly in relationships and trying to keep individual families, community in all the district, but also in Minnesota. How I would do that is by leading by example. I am an Air Force veteran, and so I believe strongly in serving and enjoy the opportunity to be your next senator for District 45.
Thank you, Roxana Bruins. And our third opening statement is from House District 45B candidate Mike Freiberg. Mike?
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. This is pretty cool. I've never been to a debate at a brew pub before. I had to decide not to have a beer beforehand. I don't think that would lead to anything good. So once again, I'm Mike Freiberg. I've been the state representative for Robbinsdale since 2013. I currently serve on the Legacy Committee, the Rules Committee, and the Health Policy Committee. My background is in public health, so the Health Policy Committee has been a good fit for me. I've grew up in our community, in one of the communities I serve. I'm a Robbinsdale Schools parent. My daughter Rose just started first grade at Robbinsdale Spanish Immersion School, and she's getting a great education there. We'll talk. I'm sure there'll be questions about the session and how it went and everything. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a frustrating session this past term. As a member of the minority party in the House, I didn't feel like there was always an opportunity to be fully involved, and we didn't pass some of the major initiatives that we were set out to do at the beginning of the year. In spite of that, though, I did help pass several bills that benefit people, businesses, organizations in our area. I authored the legislation to convey the Fair School in Crystal to the Robbinsdale School District. Helped create a pilot program for North Memorial right here in Robbinsdale. The Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Institute, formerly the Courage Center in Golden Valley, is also in this district. Helped pass a bill to correct some of the reimbursement issues they're dealing with from the state. And actually, Senator Rest and I received a Legislative Hero Award for our work on that, and that was very rewarding. Generally, I try to be responsive to residents in the area. I was door knocking a couple years ago and talked to a guy who lived in Robbinsdale and played the tuba in the Minnesota State Band. The state band was being kicked out of their practice facility in the Department of Transportation building, and he said he wanted that fixed. I talked to the Department of Administration. They said they actually wanted a bill to do that, so I was able to get that passed with bipartisan support. Just a small little issue, but the sort of thing I try to bring to the residents that I represent here. Look forward to this discussion. I'm sure we'll talk about many of the issues facing Robbinsdale and the state.
Thank you, Mike Freiberg, candidate for District 45B. And again, the candidate not able to join us today for District 45B is Alma Wetzger. Again, you have cards at your table for those with us here at the Wicked Wort. And again, a big thank you to the Wicked Wort for hosting us today. If you do have questions for the candidates, either for this portion, the state portion, or for the city portion, make sure you fill those out, and Tina will get those cards. Just hold those up, and we'll get those for you. First question, we'll begin with Mike and come back down the table. Again, campaigning, favorite part of the year, I know, for all of you. And the question is, what has been the number one topic that you've heard as you're campaigning, and what has been your response to that topic?
Since I am in the state legislature, obviously I would like to discuss nothing but issues facing the state. However, this has been such an unusual year politically. When you go to the door as an elected official, I think a lot of people sort of see you as the vessel to which they can pour their political thoughts. So, certainly to me, my top priority is education, but, I'm not going to lie, I think it seems like the thing I've heard the most from people when I'm going door to door, and I've been going door to door a lot, is the presidential race. People want to talk about, what the latest thing Donald Trump said. People want to talk about, I'm sure I haven't been out since the debate last night, and hope everybody watched. It was very interesting. I'm sure this will be a much more civil one than that was. There'll be a lot less interruptions. But I tell, if people ask who I'm supporting, I tell them I'm supporting Hillary Clinton, and I have some concerns about what Donald Trump would do. That is, as I said, the top issue for me personally is education, but when I go door to door, it seems like people want to talk about the presidential race.
Thank you, Mike. Roxana, same question. What has been the top topic when you've been out campaigning, and how have you responded to that topic?
I would agree that one of the hot topics is the presidential race, and my response to that is encouraging every single resident eligible to vote to get out and vote despite what is going on in the executive presidential election, because Minnesota is who we represent and who we want to serve. I can say, however, that there's a large variety of concerns and passion from residents, and it ranges from term limits to confusing medical coverage and pricing, to child protection, to gun safety and how to reduce violence. And my responses to those questions and those comments are encouraging them to vote, encouraging residents to ask questions, encouraging open-ended conversations that show respect and courtesy for one another as human beings. Another topic is religious freedoms and the ability to have religious items and across the board, not specifically one religion, and to be fair and respectful to one another for our differences, because we as a country came together with a variety of differences, and religion can be a barrier to relationship building, but it doesn't have to be. People are very concerned about abortion. People are concerned about the definition of marriage. And so I have encouraged every single person to be advocates and be a voice for themselves, but to elect me if they are not able to or willing to, so that I can speak on their behalf.
Thank you, Roxana. And Russ, same question. Top thing you've heard on the campaign trail and your response.
Thank you. I too have done a lot of door knocking this season, and not only in my own district, but also in helping candidates across the metropolitan area. And I find that we're really all concerned about some of the same things. And the number one thing that has come up has been things like, what can I do to fix the potholes in their streets? And I agree with Mike that it is when we go as a representative of government, or even a candidate aspiring to be in the government, the thing that comes to mind for most people who are willing to talk with us are their own immediate concerns for what's affecting their lives in the community. And it's not always the huge environmental concerns or criminal justice concerns. It's about safety in their neighborhood. It's about fixing the ice dam on the that's built up in their street. And I must tell you that on that one occasion, I immediately called Marcia Glick in Robbinsdale, and she was very responsive to the constituents' concern, although it was not a state issue. It was something that the city was having to deal with. What people care about at the door again, or what is going on in their own lives. So when you encounter people with small children, they want to talk about the schools. They want to talk about this experience that their children, particularly the young ones, are as they're entering and having their first experiences in schools, what they're having, and how can quality public schooling be assured to their families. Those that have children who are in high school become concerned about how they're going to pay for college or post-secondary training, and we stop and talk about that. One of the things that always strikes me is we go to people's doors unannounced and uninvited, and the generosity of folks of giving their time to us to discuss issues is something that I really treasure in our communities.
Thank you. Again, if you have questions from the audience, hold up those cards. Tina will pick those up for you, and we'll get those read in just a few minutes. Next question, and we'll start with Roxana. What are your top priorities for the state, and what would you specifically do to see those priorities moved ahead? Again, top priorities in the state, and what would you specifically do to see those priorities moved ahead? Roxana?
I can begin by saying that I don't have the career experience and the vocabulary necessarily to speak well on this topic. However, my priorities will be to address, which includes asking questions, assessing the current policies, and then reviewing the problem-solving process in collaboration with both sides of fiscal responsibility. I strongly believe, and having been a citizen who is, if you have a budget and you only have a certain amount of money, as a family, we've learned, gosh, we would sure love to go to Tahiti or the Bahamas or Africa or whatever, but guess what? It's not in our budget, so therefore we are not going to spend the money foolishly. We are going to maintain our budget to live and be able to meet our basic needs, and I feel like that should go across to our state government. I don't agree. For example, it was a fiscally responsible decision, although I don't know the reasons behind it, to build a $90 million Senate building. That to me is foolish and perhaps even greedy when there was an existing building that was in place for our legislatures. I also know that education is a top priority. I'm in favor, and I love the fact that the kindergarten has gone all day. I believe strongly in early intervention, so that in early intervention I mean strong skill building relationally and socially, so that our youngsters, not only school education, but also how to interact respectfully and responsibly, problem solve, and treat each other with respect, and contribute to relationships with our own families, our communities, in our school, with our law enforcement. It's gone to the wayside, and we need to get back to respecting and caring about one another, service to one another, not because we want something or going to get something in return, but from our hearts. I also am very strongly in favor of increasing safety and protecting the lives from conception to natural death.
Thank you. Same question, Mike Freiberg.
Sure. Thank you, Dave. My first priority is education. I'm glad to hear Ms. Bruins mention that she's glad we did all-day kindergarten. That was sort of one of the better moments of my first year in 2013 was when we created that, and I've taken advantage of it with myself with my daughter last year, who was in kindergarten, and it was all day. It's optional, if people don't want to have their kids go to all-day kindergarten, they don't have to, but the usage rates for it are something, are close to 100%. It's something almost everybody does. Going forward, I do think we need, to continue to invest in the K-12 education system. There are a lot of mandates on the school district, whether you're talking about special ed and others. So just ensuring that those are funded, through the K-12, through the per pupil funding formula. Higher education, I think, is a component of that too. I just turned 40 a few days ago. I'm still paying off loans from college. So I think through things like loan forgiveness, we can end tuition freezing, which we did in the 2013-14 session. I think we need to do that again because at our public colleges and universities, tuition is getting very high. My second priority is transportation and infrastructure. I think we need to pass a comprehensive transportation bill that includes funding for roads, bridges, and importantly for this area, transit. I'm a strong supporter of the Bottineau line, the Blue Line extension. I think it has a lot of potential to bring there's been a lot of revitalization of downtown Robbinsdale. I think that has the potential to bring it, forward even more, and I strongly support it. I'm encouraged. It was discouraging that we didn't pass a transportation bill in the last session, but I am glad that we seem to be finding a way to move forward in spite of that. My third priority is government transparency, and I think I heard it beep that I'm out of time. So ask me more about that when this is done.
You can hear that all the way down there. Very good. Thank you, Mike. Ann Rest, same question, top priorities and what you would specifically do to move those ahead.
Well, thank you. One of the biggest disappointments I think we've all experienced at the end of the previous session and throughout the summer and early fall is the failure of the legislature on both sides to act on the veto tax bill, which came about because of a $100 million mistake in a provision that was part of the House tax bill, to pass comprehensive transportation and transit that would allow the metropolitan area to move forward with our transit initiatives, paying for them ourselves, not asking for help from the state or from residents in greater Minnesota. And then also the bonding bill, the bill that we use to build for the future, to build for, to complete and construct our infrastructure over a long period of years. We do bonding, that kind of long-term debt, because we do not want to build our buildings, like on the university campuses, using a credit card, where we would pay enormous amounts of interest in order to reap the benefits. So that's why we use long-term bonds. We don't buy our homes on a credit card. We buy our homes with a mortgage. That's the way to think about the bonding bill. But that didn't happen this time. Moving forward into the 2017 legislature and that session, the one priority, the one requirement that's in the Constitution is to produce a balanced budget. It is a constitutional requirement. Unlike the federal government, we cannot spend indiscriminately more than what we have. We either use our surpluses, and we've been fortunate under Governor Dayton and an improving economy to have surpluses, 1/3 of which we devote by law to the reserve. But then beyond that, if we have a deficit, which we did for the previous 10 years, we ended up doing some very, very bad borrowing that threatened and decreased our bond rating. That's since been improved back to a AAA. But we have to have a balanced budget, and that is the number one priority. We need to work on the economy. There's not just an achievement gap among our various populations and the demographic differences in the Twin Cities as well as across the state. There are opportunity gaps, and one of the things we did in the prior legislature is to address some of those opportunity gaps. We worked on improving the working family credit. We'll do that again. I'm hoping we can pass the veto tax bill corrected for the mistakes early in the 2017 legislature. We certainly have a priority on funding our schools, whether they be pre-K, K-12, or post-secondary. Transportation and transit, the Blue Line extension for our communities is very, very important, and I am a strong supporter of that and have carried the legislation to allow the funding to go forward. And then again, we need to pass early on a bonding bill so that the construction season, hopefully, which can start early, will be able to make use of our decisions.
Thank you. First question from the audience, and again, we'll have time for a couple questions we have up here and then closing statements, and we will move on to the city candidates. We'll start with Ann Rest. The question is, where do you stand on the right of individuals to live their faith in their school, place of employment, or business? Again, where do you stand on the right of individuals to live their faith in their school, place of employment, or business? Ann Rest?
In my mind, the most important amendment in the Bill of Rights is the First Amendment. It is the right to free speech, but not the right to call fire in a crowded theater. It is the right to practice your religion, but not the right to interfere in the practice of the religion of others. I think that we need lots of conversation within the community, with our neighbors, with our legislators, among our religious leaders, for what exactly that means as part of the freedoms that we have as Americans.
Thank you. Next response from Mike Freiberg. Mike?
Thank you, Dave. Senator Rest kind of stole what I was planning on saying there. I was going to point to the First Amendment, which would be where I would look first. Since I'm a lawyer, maybe I'll use a little more legalese here, but the First Amendment says that Congress, and by extension the states, can't make any law respecting the establishment of religion, so you can't compel anybody to practice to engage in religious practices that they don't believe in, or respecting the free exercise of religion, so the government can't inhibit people's ability to practice their own religion either. And I think that's one of the core founding principles of our country and our state. So obviously I support that, and I think we're growing more diverse as a country, as a community here, religiously, as well as and just demographically in general. So we have a lot of Muslim residents in Minnesota now that we didn't have before, and I think we need to respect their right to practice their religion, and as well as everybody else's.
Thank you, Mike. Roxana, same question.
To some degree, I agree with both Ms. Ann Rest and Mike Freeberg. I think when you tear down the layers, there's hostility, there's resentment, and there's anger, maybe even crossing into unawareness. And so I deeply believe that education of our public about sensitivity, when I was in the military, they called it sensitivity training. And that was 25 years ago. So I think educating the public, whether it's our places of employment, whether it's our individual communities, we all feel like we're walking on eggshells and that we're offending people, whether it's religion or our words or our clothes or how we look at people. And so I don't think that's right personally. That's not my moral compass to be stepping on people's shoes in that format. But when it comes to practicing religion, an example that I have as an EA at an elementary school, there was a young man who was praying at lunch, and several people were making fun of him, and his EA that was assigned to him told him he could not do that and that he was going to get in trouble if he continued. I don't feel like that's right to interfere with other people's religious beliefs. He wasn't evangelizing, he wasn't forcing his beliefs, he was practicing his own in a public school. I feel like we all need to be aware of what our own personal biases are and how we're coming across to other people and how we are affecting our youth and our families in our community.
Thank you. Final question for our legislative group, and we'll begin with Roxana. In regard to the Minnesota Child Protection Task Force created by Governor Dayton, what are you doing or plan to do in your respective roles to ensure that the state legislature follows through on the task force's recommendations to reform our state's broken child protection system? Roxana?
This question, I don't have all the details of what that task force entails, and so the first order of business for me would be to become aware, fully aware of what exists and what the areas are that are failing. I can say that having worked in treatment facilities, in mental health treatment centers, working in the schools, I've seen a variety of areas and actually worked with agencies that have had to enforce or implement child protection services. So for me, my job would be to ask questions. Myself having mental health experience and the ability to ask questions and probe what possible solutions there are, that is what I would do. I would ask questions and I would look for the experts in the field beyond my education and training, because it is something that is far-reaching and it's very expensive and it's very hurtful to our young people who are removed and affected. It's far-reaching. And I'm just going to say I'm going to pray for solutions. Our children are our future.
Thank you. Next response, Ann Rest.
Thank you very much. I think this past week in particular, we have re-experienced the tragedy of the abduction and murder of Jacob Wetterling. And we've heard a lot of discussion in the past 27 years about the improvements that we have made to protect our children and the ways in which we can develop and publicize things like Amber Alerts. But unfortunately, the biggest dangers to our children often come within the family. And so it is initiatives that try to protect children within their families. That often falls on overworked social workers at the county level, to protect them there, and then to also help families that are broken to heal. It seems to me that I'm going to be looking for recommendations from the Child Protection Task Force that goes in those two areas. Not only the danger that our children face from strangers like Jacob Wetterling, but also the challenges that they face within their own families, and recommendations that are positive ones that move us forward with keeping children safe in our neighborhoods and in our families. And I hope that those are the kinds of recommendations that they will be coming forward with.
Thank you. Mike Freiberg?
Sure, thank you. Appreciate the question. So kind of by way of background, the Star Tribune had a story, I forget if it was last year or the year before, I think it might have been 2 years ago by now, about a child who was sort of failed by the system and actually ended up murdered, partly because of the policies that were in place by the Department of Human Services at the time. The specific policy in that case was whether or not prior instances of abuse could be taken into account when they're making placement decisions. So the new policy, which I think was enacted under the belief that it was not being applied consistently, but the policy that the Department of Human Services put into place was that you can, if there was no action taken on an accusation of child abuse, then it couldn't be taken, then it could not be taken into account. And partly in response to that story about the young child, the governor created the task force, and one of their first recommendations was changing that provision, allowing prior accusations of abuse, even if they weren't acted upon, to factor into placement decisions. So the legislature acted on that. I certainly supported that. The task force is still in place, and so I'm sure they'll come forward with other recommendations to improve the system, and I look forward to hearing what they have to say as well.
Thank you. There are also questions from the audience related to safety and the achievement gap, and I am sure the candidates will stick around for a minute or two if you're interested in asking them those questions. But unfortunately for timing today, we're going to move ahead to our closing statements. We'll begin with Mike Freiberg.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you once again both to the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce and to the Wicked Wort for hosting this debate, as well as to Nona Rosa's for supplying the food. It's been an honor to serve as Robbinsdale's representative in the Minnesota House of Representatives for the last 4 years. Just during those 4 years, we have accomplished a lot. We created all-day kindergarten, paid back the schools from when the legislature borrowed from them previously. We froze college tuition, created marriage equality. So I'm proud of a lot of the things we've done. I mentioned that there were some big issues that were not addressed during the most recent session, but I'm still proud of the fact that I was able to get a lot done for our district. And I hope you'll consider supporting me in my re-election campaign. Election day is November 8th, but you can actually vote today if you want to. So technically it's not considered early voting, but I think it is. So regardless of who you're voting for, I hope everyone gets out there and votes. If not now, certainly by November 8th. Really appreciate this debate. It's a great opportunity to discuss issues facing the state in front of your constituents.
Thank you. Mike Freiberg, again, candidate for House District 45B, and his opponent, Alma Wetzger, for House District 45B, again, not able to be with us today. Next closing statement from Roxana Bruns, Senate District 45 candidate.
Again, I'll echo thank you for coming, taking your time during the day to come out and hear and observe. I am very thankful to live in a country that allows us to have these forums. I'm very thankful for the fact that we have freedom of religion. We don't necessarily have to be persecuted to be having a democracy and sharing conversations openly with one another. We are trying, as a family, to instill service. My mother did way back when, 40 years ago, when she was fighting to keep Armstrong open. She was a League of Women's Voter panelist, and I just watched as a little kid as she, planted seeds all over the place. I feel that I represent the common person. I've suffered, I've trialed, I've persevered, and I don't need to get into all that detail, but if you want to talk to me about it, I'll be willing to share with you. As a mom of 6, as a high schooler who was date raped and chose adoption as the option, there are options, and it doesn't have to include abortion. I am pleased to say that as an American, it's time for a change. Please vote for me November 8th.
Thank you, Roxana. And final closing statement from Ann Rest.
Thank you, and thank you also from me for the sponsorship of this forum, and to the Wicked Wort and Nona Rosa. I have enjoyed the informal settings of these forums over the years that I have been in the Minnesota Senate, and really do appreciate your hospitality. I want to continue to use my experience in this community and our communities at large, and the legislature for all of our families. I want to work to resolve the budget challenges that we're going to have and continue to have with responsible fiscal policy. I'm going to direct my energies to improve our schools through high standards, effective teaching, and stable funding. In particular, I think it's going to be important in Robbinsdale and Crystal and Golden Valley. That's the line, not in that order, but that's the line of the Blue Line extension, that we continue to be in play for that project. I'm going to continue to champion rail safety in our communities, and I have done that through legislation, not just for defeating the Connector project, which I applaud the Robbinsdale City Council, Hennepin County, the city councils of Crystal, New Hope, and Plymouth, all across our area in support of defeating that project. Our children and our grandchildren deserve safe neighborhoods in which to grow up happy and healthy, and I am delighted, quite frankly, that I live in one of them. I'm going to continue to work for them. And again, I thank you for your sponsorship of the forum, and I have already voted. I voted on the first day at 8:15 a.m. You can do that. Most people are traditionalists, and in that regard, I have been too. And they wait until the election day to vote. But if you are going to be out of town, you don't even have to give a reason. You can just go to your city hall, to Robbinsdale City Hall, if you live in Robbinsdale, and vote. And if nothing else reminds me of the need for rail safety, it is that train passing us right now. Thank you very much.
On that note, please join me in thanking our candidates for being with us today. And we will take a short break and be back with the Robbinsdale candidates. Stay with us. And welcome back to the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. We are now at the city portion of our forum. I'll ask our guests to take a seat if you would. As we continue with the city portion, we have candidates for City Council Ward 1, City Council Ward 2, and Robbinsdale Mayor. And we have two candidates that were invited and sent in notes that they were very sorry they could not join us today, and they have sent in statements. I will read those when we get to that portion of the opening statements. Let's begin with the opening statements, and the candidate from Ward 1 City Council is Bill Blonigan. Bill, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce. I am Bill Blonigan, and I'm running for Ward 1 council member, and I would appreciate it if you could vote for me. My wife Terry and I have lived in Robbinsdale a long time. I grew up in Golden Valley and aspired to move to Robbinsdale and live in Robbinsdale. We did so just in time to have the first of our 4 children, and they all grew up here in Robbinsdale, attended Robbinsdale schools, and went to the University of Minnesota, at least partially, for their various degrees. As a council member, I think really what we have to do is provide responsible, efficient government, and basic services are high up on that list. We need fire and police protection, and we need the other basic services, the street department, garbage, things like that. And we have to do it correct. Fire and police are very important because public safety is over 50% of our budget, and police is the vast majority of that. We've added in recent years 2 police officers, one coming on board next year, And that is very important to try to control crime, reduce crime, things like that. The other thing that has been really a great joy to me is being on the Economic Development Authority and all the things that we've been able to do in the downtown, all the things that we've been able to do in our neighborhoods. We'll probably talk more about that. And it's a pleasure to be serving on a well-functioning city council. I could tell you about each of our council members and the great strengths that they have, and about our very professional staff if I had time, but I suspect that'll come up later. So I would appreciate your vote in November or today or any time in the interim. Thank you.
Thank you. And the other candidate for Ward 1 City Council is Barbara Richardson. She is not able to be with us today. Sadly disappointed that she can't be here. I do have her statement. I'll read that for you. Barbara is seeking election to Ward 1 City Council, and she says, I have a genuine desire to serve the city that has been my home for the past 39 years. My decision to run comes after receiving the support of 42% of the vote for this council seat in 2012. I believe if almost half of the community thought it was time for a fresh voice and new ideas, I owe them a second opportunity for change. From vision and innovation to creativity and a competitive edge in the marketplace, I will bring all these to the council. I enjoyed having a successful small business in Robbinsdale for 15 years. During that time, I developed the skills and strength necessary not only for successful private business endeavors, but the same essential qualities that translate to an effective council member. I believe no one knows a neighborhood better than the people who live there. My first priority will be to preserve and further extend the sense of safety in Robbinsdale. Ward 1 surrounds our esteemed business district, so in order to continue on this exciting path, there needs to be a direct impact made on the level of crime that still exists in parts of our city. I believe streets must be safe for pedestrians and cyclists, as well as motorists and visitors to our city. By actively collaborating with law enforcement, I want to share innovative ideas and ways to increase support and participation for community involvement, for we watch, we call, we care. In general, to take these safety issues more seriously, maintaining a safer community for all. Here's what I know for sure. I want to make certain our community needs and concerns are heard, accounted for, and implemented. So if you would like to see change, please give me the opportunity to serve you in Ward 1. Barbara Richardson. Our next opening statement is from Mayor Regan Murphy, again running for mayor here in the city of Robbinsdale.
Thanks, Dave. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again to the Chamber for hosting the event. Of course, Wicked Wort for having us here. Nona Rosa's food, which I already have spilled on my jacket. But it's a great event, and it's good to see you all here today. My name's Regan Murphy, mayor of Robbinsdale. I was elected in 2012. I grew up in Robbinsdale, went to Robbinsdale schools. I have the luxury of having my mom here as well tonight. So we've had a long history here in Robbinsdale. And I ran for mayor back in 2012 after moving back to Robbinsdale in 2005 with my wife. We now have 3 children. And I saw the potential that Robbinsdale still had for growth and prosperity, and I decided to do something about it. But moving back in 2005, I got involved with the Park and Rec Commission. Then I got involved with the Planning Commission and as one of the founding members with Councilmember Blonigan with the Heart of Robbinsdale Community Foundation. So I had a good background in participating in Robbinsdale and trying to make it better. And I wanted to become mayor. I bleed blue and yellow, blue and gold. I love Robbinsdale, and the last 4 years I've worked extremely hard and put a lot of time and effort into helping residents and helping Robbinsdale thrive. And we can talk more about some of those specifics and what I'd like to do in the next 4 years. And again, I ask for your vote, and hopefully after today you will give me a thumbs up, vote yes.
The other candidate for mayor is Henry King, and again, he was invited and was planning to come, but has to work and not able to come. He is a Robbinsdale mayoral candidate, and he is, again, disappointed for having to work and miss this forum, but he gives us this statement. I would be very honored to be elected mayor of Robbinsdale. Running has already been a learning experience for me, and I'm excited to go further. Mayor is supposed to be a part-time job, but I will give it heart and soul to making Robbinsdale a better place to live for all of us. First of all, I would like to clean up the town. I have been doing this already for the past couple years, picking up after people because I find trash on the streets and by the lake unacceptable. I have seen the people who litter, and it seems the psychological concept of people only appreciating what they work hard for is very true. People who own their homes have pride. People who pay their hard-earned money for rent have pride, but many others do not. We cannot afford to get a reputation as a town that accepts crime, litter, or other misbehavior, nor spread the idea that Robbinsdale is a place where anything goes. We want people to achieve Robbinsdale, not begrudgingly accept it as a sort of consolation prize. I want to make Robbinsdale more upscale and attract more young families and businesses, but we first have work to do. Our reputation is mixed right now, and deservedly so. I love Robbinsdale and know it is a great community with a lot to offer, so we will build on the positives and work to eliminate the weaknesses. If you choose me as your mayor, I promise to give it everything I have. Thank you for listening, and everybody enjoy their lunch. That is Henry King, Robbinsdale mayoral candidate. And our final opening statement is from Dan Rogan, candidate for Ward 2 City Council. Dan?
Thanks, Dave. Again, I'm Dan Rogan, and I have been on the City Council for 12 years. I moved to Robbinsdale about 15 years ago. I grew up in Plymouth, and after law school, moved back here and decided to raise a family here in Robbinsdale. And I can always remember how many years I've served because my youngest son, Finn, was an infant when I was out door knocking, and so he turned 12 in May, and so I've been on the council for 12 years, and I have really enjoyed my service over those 12 years. And the reason I'm running again is really for the same reasons I ran in the first place, is that I wanted to give back to the community, and I wanted to help try to make Robbinsdale a great place for families to move to and to live, and to continue to work on making our downtown a special place, and for Robbinsdale to be a safe place. And those three pillars are things that I continue to try to focus on through the work of the City Council and through the work of the EDA. We're sitting here in the Wicked Wort today, which is one of the examples of that, of collaboration between a business and the city working together to really try to turn what was a closed business at that time into the great functioning place it is today. And I think it's a good example of the businesses in Robbinsdale and the community in Robbinsdale working together to make this a really special place. We have something super special here in Robbinsdale, whether you want to call it Robbinsdale or Birdtown. The community here and the community spirit and the ability for businesses to work together, for communities to work together is something special, and it's something that I really want to continue to work on for the next 4 years. And so I hope that people will vote for me. As you'll soon hear from Dave, I don't have an opponent, so I don't have many other, there aren't any choices to vote against me unless somebody's going to run in a run-in campaign. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Our first question will begin with Regan Murphy. The question is, what is the future of the Robbinsdale budget, and how do you plan to work with the budget available for the city?
That's a great question. You know, out campaigning, taxes is often a common topic, and I know that over the last several years, cumulatively, in Robbinsdale, we've actually had just over a 2% decrease in taxes overall. So as a city council, we've done a phenomenal job with the help of city staff and our financial director to have a balanced budget that provides the city services that residents expect, yet keeps taxes low compared to our surrounding communities. So the upcoming budget, basically how the process works is, staff will come up with their various projections and things, kind of a wish list or whatnot, and we spend a lot of time vetting those with city staff and taking what residents want to see in Robbinsdale and kind of narrowing it down to something that's going to be amicable for staff, for residents, and for council. And so this year's budget, we do provide for one additional police officer. maintaining city services. One of the things we did last year is we budgeted for new streets. So we did several miles of mill and overlay, which I know we had a lot of compliments on this year, and that stemmed from residents having issues with roads and potholes. And so it's just one of the examples of where we acted to satisfy the needs of our residents. But as far as the budget process goes, we've kind of set the levy amount, and while it can't go up, we can decrease it, and there'll be a number of public hearings coming up here this fall before that gets decided upon. But so that's kind of where we're at with the budget.
The same question to Dan Rogan, our next responder. What is the future of the Robbinsdale budget, and how do you plan to work within that budget?
Thanks for the question, Dave. Just to kind of pick up on what Regan said, I think with a small town, we constantly struggle with the budget. We don't have significant commercial areas like some of our neighbors that have really high properties, because our biggest employer is a nonprofit, the hospital. And so one of the things that we've had for a long time is that we raise a significant amount of our funds that we have control over come from our residents. And so it's always important for us to keep in mind that the dollars that we're spending are the dollars that are coming from our neighbors. So that's something that I keep in mind. And I think, overall, we also have a lot of our funds come through the state. And so we're sometimes subject to, when the state is more flush, we're able to get more aid. And when it's not, as it was back in 2000, I think it was 9 and 10, and they cut some of our aid, it has a significant impact on us. And so it's something we really have to be planful for, and we've tried to make sure that we have enough reserves so that we can weather some of those storms. But it really comes down to, as a city council member, I look at the increases that we're going to do to make sure that they're justified, that there's a reason for doing it. As Regan said, we have this year, we're going to increase our levy a few percent. And when you look at it, I can explain it to somebody who asks me why I'm doing it, because we're going to have an extra police officer, we're going to have an extra public works worker, we're going to have something that I can point to say, this is why we're doing it, because we need these services, and you as a resident are going to gain for that, because frankly, we do have a lot of needs that, as an older city with our infrastructure, that are going to continue to cause budget pressures on us. So we just really need to be mindful of where those dollars are coming from and make sure that they're wisely spent.
Thank you. Same question to Bill Blonigan. What is the future of the Robbinsdale budget, and how do you plan to work within that budget?
So in an attempt to not be repetitive, we'll just refer you to what both Dan and Regan said, and just pick up on the fact that we do have a high percentage of our budget that comes from other sources. I think the amount that we levy is about $5.8 million, and our total expenditures are, I think, $9.2 million. And so you can see that the difference there, you could figure out the percentage, which is a high percentage, is from other sources, local government aid, fiscal disparities, things like that. And so we have to have, among the things that, in addition, to the things that the other two spoke about, we have to have a good relationship with our state legislators and have things be fair when we're talking about how city government is going to be funded. We share with the entire metro community the resources that we've all helped to make valuable by paying for the Mall of America and things like that. And then secondly, I am always in my mind, and I really think the other council members are too, in competition with ourselves and with our neighboring communities to try to keep a low tax rate. And on my literature last time, I loved putting that our tax rate was the lowest of Crystal, Golden Valley, Brooklyn Center, New Hope, and Brooklyn Brooklyn Park. And now we're the second lowest, and I think by next year we're going to be the lowest again. Crystal is just marginally lower than us, and they used their savings account to pay for their new municipal public works building, and I think they're having a higher increase probably than us this next year. So we're in competition with other areas, and we try to serve you good by being responsible with your money.
Thank you. Next question, we will start with Dan Rogan, and the question is, what are your thoughts about redevelopment proposed now and in the future in the city of Robbinsdale?
I'm a big proponent of redevelopment. As a fully built-out city, that's the way that we continue to grow as a city, is by taking properties that are underutilized and working with developers to try to get them to a higher use. And we have a lot of good examples here in downtown Robbinsdale. The building that we're in right now is a prime example of that. Having been a bank for a long time and then sitting vacant for a long time, we're now sitting in a very successful establishment that has really changed the dynamic of how this building has been used. There are other good examples. The first one that I worked on when as a city council member and during the EDA was the Wort Bakery. Again, it was a bakery that was closed for a long time. It was sitting vacant, and it needed redevelopment, and it needed the ability for help from the city or the EDA to help open it up so that it could become a retail establishment. And it's been very successful. The Travail, Pig Ate My Pizza, there are a number of them that have been really successful. So redevelopment is critical to our cities, and I think it's only going to become more critical when we get light rail, that we're going to have even more people coming downtown, because we're going to have a stop right here, and it's going to be critical for us to be smart about how we redevelop our downtown to make sure that we keep the small town character, but really allow businesses to come in here that are going to be successful, that our residents are really looking forward to working at and shopping at and being around.
Thank you. Same question for Bill Blonigan.
So one of the most exciting parts about being on a city council is this opportunity to be on the Economic Development Authority, and most of the council members take turns. I'm the president this year, and it doesn't really matter nowadays, really, as compared to some of the other councils I've been on, what your view is, as much because we're all on the same page. When we first thought about having this TCF bank building repurposed by using tax increment financing and help from the city into a brewery, each of us independently, because we're not allowed to talk outside of meetings basically, each independently, we were all enthusiastic about this, that this could be a synergistic thing, helping the restaurants and all the other businesses in town. And without the Economic Development Authority and some of these special laws, tax increment financing, and some things that we've done locally, without those things, many of these buildings downtown would not be at all the way that they are. I go between 42nd and 41st, and actually even go down farther down West Broadway, and I try to think of a building that isn't or hasn't been helped by the Economic Development Authority, and I can only think of basically the drugstores, going a little bit outside there, the funeral parlor, and maybe one or two other buildings. Every other building here, we've used the tool that we have to promote what people love, which is our authentic human scale downtown. And others may have more tax base, wealthier citizens, higher value houses, but we have that. We have the authentic human scale downtown, and the EDA is one of the best ways we have to promote that.
Thank you. Again, same question for Regan Murphy.
Thanks, Dave. So redevelopment has been critical to, over the last few years, to bring Robbinsdale where it is today, where people are, again, very prideful where they live. We've got a resurgence in vitality. I mean, I hear from realtors, Robbinsdale's a place people want to be now, and that's because of some of the things that are happening. 4 years ago, when I was running for mayor, one of my priorities was economic development. And two ways development can happen in cities. You can either sit and wait for it to happen, or you can be proactive. And we as a council, made a conscious decision a few years ago to be more proactive. And where we are today is one of those examples. We went ahead and changed our ordinances to allow tap rooms which allowed us then to go out and look at businesses that would want to come here and be ready for them, to not have to go through the process of developing an ordinance. We wanted to be ahead of the game, and so we were able to develop a relationship with the owners of Wicked Wort, and it was phenomenal. And it's a domino effect. And we also are working with doing roundtables with developers, going out and seeking opportunities instead of sitting back and waiting, because we are in competitions, but we have a lot of advantages, like Councilmember Blonigan mentioned, with our authentic downtown. We want to continue to build on that, and we have this energy that's happening right now that we're pretty excited about, and now developers are coming to Robbinsdale and want to come here, and that's good for everybody. It's good for the businesses that we love, and it's good for us as residents to diversify, to have businesses that are thriving and a place where people want to be, not just the residents, but from people outside of Robbinsdale will come here and spend money at our restaurants, flower shops, and meat markets, and it's something we can definitely be proud of. So I think if I'm elected in the next 4 years, you'll continue to see us being very proactive in attracting the businesses that we want as residents, and that's the other difference. Is by being proactive, we can be engaged in bringing in the businesses that residents ask us about, that things that they want. So that's it. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Final question is beginning with Bill Blonigan, and the question is similar to what we asked the state candidates earlier. What is the top thing you have heard when you are out campaigning, and how have you responded to it?
Well, probably the top thing that people are talking about in Robbinsdale, I don't know about my campaign because they each have their own individual things, but is probably the redevelopment at the Terrace Theater site and whether or not Hy-Vee should go in there. And it's a very emotional issue for a lot of people. The city council, and basically, except for one procedural vote, the planning commission, are all unanimous in thinking that we should do this development. And the way I have responded is indicating that the people that want to save the historic theater for historical purposes they're not wrong, they're right. It is a historical theater. They are more passionate and more understanding of history than I am, I'm sure, but you have to compare the cost and the benefit with what the alternative is. And for 17 years, nothing has been happening there. We have a tremendous alternative now, or opportunity, which is the Hy-Vee development, and it'll bring as much as $30 million of development, as much as 700 jobs to the city, and we need that kind of thing. We still will have an authentic human-scale downtown. This is what defines us right here. The area where the Hy-Vee could or probably will go, that is not our definition of our history. I'm not worried about Robbinsdale becoming a big box community. That has got to be probably the only spot in Robbinsdale that could ever, in the foreseeable future, have a big box. And so I've responded that it's a tough decision, but you've got to come down one way or the other. And that's how we've unanimously come down after we weighed the costs and benefits of each proposal.
Thank you. Regan Murphy, same question.
Thanks, Dave. So the one beautiful thing about Robbinsdale is the residents and how much they appreciate the history of the town, but also look forward to the progress of Robbinsdale and its future. And in the last 4 years, those things have clashed a little bit with this current topic of the Terrace. And the answer to the question is the Terrace Theater is what I hear the most about. And it's been frustrating because this is the first time since I've been mayor that there's been an issue that's been really divided, yes and no. And so I love the passion that the residents have had in preserving the building and attempting to make something of it, because we've been trying to do something with the Terrace Theater for quite some time. It's been inoperable for 17 years, and that mall has been a bit dilapidated and just hasn't shown the best of Robbinsdale when you go by it. And Development has been a priority of mine, and I have no problem saying that we focus on blighted properties, and that corner's been blighted. And that's a critical corner for the future of our downtown area, which we hope to expand beyond these 2 blocks that we're at today. And so it's been trying to, sympathize with those that want to save it. And, so I applaud their passion and efforts. But at the same time, we've got a significant opportunity to bring in a business that's going to invest over $20 million in Robbinsdale. I don't know when the last time that happened. And it's going to provide an amenity that people have been asking me for since Rainbow closed right after I was elected in 2013. And yes, there's a lot of grocery stores nearby, but people, that's the one thing, an amenity, a convenience that people have on a daily basis they want close to them. And it's going to be an anchor to that corner that is going to allow future development, not just any development, but higher end development. And we already have developers interested in pursuing other opportunities as a result of this development. And kind of like Councilmember Blonigan mentioned, we have the opportunity to look at so much information and different aspects of this. And we have heavily weighed all the options, and we put a lot of emotional time in this, not just mental too. And it's been very frustrating, but we are all in favor of the development. And there have been a lot of twists and turns over the last couple weeks, and we hope to get some information out to residents as to exactly where we are with this project, and hopefully we can move forward and get that corner prosperous again.
Thank you. Dan Rogan, same question.
Well, I'll just mention a little bit on the Hy-Vee. I think Regan and Bill did a nice job of explaining why the council voted the way it did. I think, the one thing that I will say is that for the most part, it was another example of the Robbinsdale community, despite the high passion on both sides, coming together at meetings and for the most part being very respectful. And we had some very contentious meetings with a lot of people testifying, and this was more contentious than anything else since I've been on the council. But it did still really show the community. I mean, we still, everybody knew everybody in the room, and it was. I still thought a very good process for us to listen to people and hear what they were. Their reasons for what they were, whichever side they were on. The other one that I think that people are talking about, and that I hope they continue to talk about, is the Blue Line extension, which is, I think, going to be the biggest thing that's going to happen in Robbinsdale, for the next 50 years probably. We're going to be the only stop on that line that's going to be right next to a downtown. The rest of the stops are not going to be next to a downtown. Ultimately, Brooklyn Park in 20 years might at the very end have developed something up there. But it's going to be a dramatic improvement, I think, to the residents of Robbinsdale, who will be able to quickly get to the light rail, but also to all the businesses and to our downtown, because it's going to be right, less than a block from where we sit right now. There'll be people coming off of that every 15 minutes. And I think it's going to be a great benefit to the restaurants and the businesses here in downtown, and is going to really help keep us as a vibrant place for people to want to live, work, and play. And so I have heard, a lot of talk about that. It's not scheduled to be online until 2021, so it's a ways off, but I hope that continues to be something that residents are really excited about.
Thank you. And now time for our closing statements. And again, thank you to the audience here for sticking with us. We wanted to make sure we gave the candidates a proper amount of time. Closing statements will begin with Regan Murphy.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks again, everybody, for coming today. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I hope to be mayor for the next 4 years. The last 4 years have been amazing. I think everybody can say that there's been a lot of positive changes in Robbinsdale and a new energy, and I love to see that. That's why I wanted to become mayor. The next 4 years, my priorities kind of are similar to what they were before, with a little more focus. As far as redevelopment, I think our downtown district, I'd like to focus some more on development in that corridor. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I still want to focus on safety. With Robbinsdale living next to one of the most populated cities in the state, That is something we have to be conscious of, and the one thing that people always want and deserve is to be able to live in their home and feel safe, and also, walk the neighborhoods and feel safe. So I've enjoyed working with the chief. We have a fantastic police department, the Robbinsdale Crime Prevention Association meeting. I think that I went to every one but one. I normally bring my kids there. They eat all the cookies. But that engagement with the residents is critical for safety. So I will continue to do that and look for new ways to innovate and keep Robbinsdale safe. And then the last piece is Councilmember Rogan, the Blue Line extension that's going to come through Robbinsdale has the potential to have a lot of changes in Robbinsdale like Robbinsdale has never seen before. And I want to be a part of that and help with the council members and the community focus on safety and also making that this project is most successful for Robbinsdale and making sure that it benefits Robbinsdale and our businesses. So those three things are my priority. I ask for your vote, and I again thank you for all being here today. And there's nothing like having a meeting like this when you got your mom here, because it's you have at least one person here that's going to vote for you.
Thank you. And again, the other candidate for mayor in the city of Robbinsdale is Henry King. Candidate for Ward 2 is Dan Rogan. Dan, closing statement.
Thank you. It's really been my honor to represent Ward 2 for the past 12 years. I think when you first run for office, you're not quite certain what it's going to entail. And I think in Robbinsdale, we're unique in that it is a position that really comes with a lot of community involvement, a lot of neighborly involvement. I get more advice from folks when I walk around than I do from people calling or emailing, because everybody knows everybody in your neighborhood. And I think that's one of the great things about Robbinsdale. And I have now I've moved twice since I was elected, and I've stayed in my nice little Ward 2 area. And in the different little pockets I've been in, it's been similar. It's been families whose kids play together, who are at the parks together, and who want the same things that we all want, which is they want to continue to live in a community that they can be proud of, and that their kids can be safe in, and go to schools that they can be proud of. And I think Robbinsdale, as the mayor pointed out, I think in the last 10 years, we've really become a much stronger community in that we're kind of locally known, and now becoming some of our restaurants are nationally known, but really regionally known as a place where people want to come and live and put down roots and stay. And I think that's a great testament to the community. It's not, we can kind of say the city council or other things, but we're just a vehicle of the community. It's really the folks in our neighborhoods who really make this a special place, and it's a real testament to them. And it's really been my honor to serve for the past 12 years, and I look forward to 4 more years, because I think, as the mayor said, we have a lot of exciting business that's going to be coming before us in the next 4 years, and a lot of exciting opportunities to make Robbinsdale even a stronger place. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dan Rogan, unopposed council candidate for Ward 2. And our final closing statement is Ward 1 candidate Bill Blonigan.
And I want to please thank the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce for being such a good organization over the years, not only having this forum, but you're very supportive of each other. It's amazing. You've remained independent. You could be part of Twin West, but you're very non-political and yet very aware of what's going on politically. And I want to thank you for your attitude in this forum over the years. I agree with Mayor Murphy and with Councilmember Rogan. This is just a unique city. I would like your vote tomorrow, today, or as late as November 8th for 4 more years. And I think I can be part of the change. I think that one of the best things that we have going is a team. We have people that each take their own part. It really lessens the work. I've been on the council for many years, and some of the other councils I've been on didn't work as well because other people weren't taking their share of the work. Just on the LRT, for example, all 5 of us are on different sorts of committees that have to do with light rail, that examine this, that, or the other thing, We're attending a conference later where we're going to spend our own time studying even more about this to make this a great thing. And so Robbinsdale will continue to change. Any community will continue to change. And so the question is, what kind of change are you going to have? Are you going to look ahead and go with positive change, or are you going to try to put the brakes on and not acclimate yourself to the new world, the new types of population that we have in the world and things like that? So please, I ask for a vote for Blonigan again. And it's been a pleasure to be on the council all these years, and thank you so much for honoring me by allowing me to be on the city council.
Thank you. And the other candidate in Ward 1 is Barbara Richardson. Please join me in thanking our city candidates. And as we close this Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce Forum, want to say a special thank you to the Wicked Wort and the staff. Thank you very much for hosting us today, and to Tina and Nona Rosas and the entire Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, and remember to vote on November 8th. Welcome. Thank you.